In our next lesson, we need to review about how to write the equation of a line, and we're going to keep it very simple, and I'll make my coordinate system, and let's say that I have a line with these ordered pairs. And I draw the line. I want you to write the equation of the line in y equals mx plus b format, where m represents the slope of the line and b represents the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept simply means where it intersects the y-axis. And in this case, it intersects the y-axis at the origin, or where the y value is 0. So in writing that part of the equation, the b will be 0. To get the slope, I'm going to go from one point to the next. I'm going up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going right 1, 2, 3. So 3 over 3 means that I have a slope of 1. And typically we do not write the coefficient of 1 in front of the variable, and neither do we show add 0. So the equation of this line is simply y equals x. Now let's look at some more examples. I want y equals mx plus b as my format for this equation. So I'm going to count from this point to the next to get my slope. So I'm going up 1 and I'm going right 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I go up 1, right 4, my slope is 1/4. This crosses the x-axis, it looks like, at about 1 3/4. So this is my equation for the line. Okay, let's look at another. Say that you have a line like this. Here is where it crosses or intersects the y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at -5. So that's going to be my y at -5. My slope, if I find an ordered pair, and go from one ordered pair to the next, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, so that's -3, and I'm going right 1, 2, 3, 4. So the equation for the line, we don't ever write two signs in a row. So this is going to be y is -3/4 x minus 5. Okay, let's look at another example. Let's say that I have a line that is horizontal. Well, it doesn't have a rise over a run, so it doesn't have a slope other than 0. It rises 0 and it runs indefinitely. So if I would choose these 2 points, it has a rise of 0 and a run of 2. And 0 over 2 is 0, and 0 times x would be 0. So the x term goes out when we have a horizontal line because it does not have, or its rise would be 0. Now it does intersect the y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the equation of this line will be y equals 6. So all horizontal lines are y equals whatever value they cross or intersect the y-axis. All right, let's look at another example. In this case, I have a vertical line. And notice that it never intersects the y-axis. So the x value is always the same. X is 3 when y is 1. X is 3 when y is 3. X is 3 when y is 6. X is 3 for every value, and your y value continually changes. So if I try to do rise over run, it has a rise each time, but it does not have a run. So if you go from this point to this point, you have a rise of 2, but you have a run of 0. And when you have 0 in a denominator, that makes the slope undefined. Therefore, if x is always 3, then that's what we write our equation. It is whatever the x value is. And that's true for all vertical lines. They're always x equals a number. Now, how are we going to use this in our assignment? I'm going to share with you a quilt that is very special to me. This quilt was made by my grandmother, my mom's mom. So I took a picture of it to show you. If I create a coordinate system where this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis, and I recreate the design of this quilt, what I have is some horizontal lines that will be y equals whatever the y value is of the intersection. And notice that this line and this line would have the same equation. So once you identify this line, you would not have to identify this one as well. Now notice that here and here are some vertical lines. So this line and this line would have the same equation. This line and this line would have the same equation. Now notice that if I look at this line, this is probably y equals x. Probably has a slope of 1 and it intersects at the origin. Notice that these two would have the same equation because they would both intersect the y-axis here, and then you would count your slope as rise over run. Now, these two makes probably y equals negative x because this is going to be a falling line. And then these two would be a falling line as well. Now notice there is symmetry about this origin. This particular pattern would have rotational symmetry because I could rotate here to here, so it looks like it has a 45-degree rotation. I could rotate here to here, here to here, here to here. Notice also that the coloring, the rotating of colors makes it very pretty. It's very attractive. Now, there are some more patterns going on up here where you would have circles that you would have to write the equation of. But we're going to make it simple, and the pattern that you are going to create will be, if you have a quilt that is special to you, that your grandmother made for you or your mom, then you might want to recreate a portion of that quilt pattern. If you do not have a quilt pattern, then you will need to research online a pattern that you like and then put it onto graph paper. Then you will write the equation of all the lines that you have. Now, you will want your quilt pattern to have symmetry. Notice that these are congruent shapes, but they don't have to be congruent. They could be similar if you would like. Similar shapes have the same angle measure, but one is larger than the other. The sides are proportional, typically. All right. So this is what you will be doing in this project. You're going to research about a quilt. Now, whether this is going to be a personal quilt or whether it's going to be one that you find online. Now, when I say research, I want to know about the quilt. Does it have a name? And does it have a history? You might find a quilt that was used for a signal in the Underground Railroad. They had certain colors of quilts and patterns that was used that was a signal as to whether it was safe to travel or not travel. So see if your quilt has a history. I know there are some very beautiful Amish quilts that you might find online if you don't have a personal history to share. I want you to draw the design on graph paper. And then I want you to write the equation of every line. Now, in this project, you can do this with early elementary all the way up to 8th and 9th grade, where you are writing the equation of the line cranks it up to the upper grade level. If you leave that part out, where they get a quilt pattern, they copy it onto their paper, and then they look at the shapes and the symmetry and whether you could do reflection or whether you could do rotation. Those are all things that you can do with early elementary. Now, the equation that I want you to write will be in the y equals mx plus b format. Now, if it is horizontal, it will be y equals a number. And if it is vertical, it's going to be x equals a number. So these are the three situations that can occur. Now remember that when lines are rising, they have a positive slope, and when lines are falling, they have a negative slope. So the last thing, I want a paragraph describing your quilt. Now in number 1, you're giving a name for the quilt and its history. That's not what I'm asking for on number 4. On number 4, the paragraph needs to be describing the quilt itself. Now for me, on my quilt, I would say that this quilt has rotational symmetry. It is made up of rhombi. It is symmetric. It has vertical line symmetry. It has horizontal line symmetry. And it has diagonal symmetry. It has point symmetry. I can do a 180 and map it onto itself. So that's the description I want to get from you, is what is your pattern made of? What kind of symmetry does it have? Are there parallel lines? Are there perpendicular lines? And then I want you to make it colorful. I want you to make it attractive. So I do expect that you will use a straight edge, no freehand, and I do expect you to use color. Straight edge, graph paper, and color. And make sure that I can see your equations of your lines when you submit it.